Hi everyone, and welcome to the webinar for the structured literacy slides that I've created by the Learning Room. We have Anthea joining us, and she's going to also ask some questions at the end as she's interested to learn how structured literacy is taught via our lesson slides. Okay, so welcome Anthea to our webinar. I'm going to now share the screen on the first page of our structured literacy lessons. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So our structured literacy lessons include a phonological awareness warm-up, which I'll go through so you can understand the different warm-ups that we have. Then we're going to be going through some letter sound knowledge, and we're going to build that up using a scope and sequence. Then we're going to work on handwriting. Then there's going to be some word readings, some writing words. Then we're going to look at some dictation, and then there's a little story at the end for some buddy reading. Could be paired reading, or the child could read on their own, or with their buddy, or with their parents. Okay, so next. Let's go into the next. So flashing letters at the end for reviewing. So these are the letters that we will be flashing through, and it follows the scope and sequence. It starts with SATPIN, and these blue dots, every time you move the finger, it's like a sound button. So when the finger moves on the first letter, you touch the blue sound button and you go S, A, T, P. But just note that these will only be shown once the child has been explicitly taught these letter sounds. So this could be done at the end for reviewing. So I have just put it at the top, just so that it's there for you to use for reviewing. So let's go through lesson 1 so you can understand a bit better. Okay, so look like this. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I see SAT PI, so per I.
And then there's the N. There's the N.
Oh.
And then it just keeps going in that sequence. Right. So that's how lessons will follow. And our short vowel sounds are very, very important. So this will also be reviewed. Just to note, it says short vowel. So we don't go A, E, I, O, U. We're starting with the short vowels. A for apple, E for egg, A for igloo, O for octopus, A for umbrella. Okay, lesson 1. We'll go through lesson 1, and then thereafter the lessons will follow very similar. So lesson 1 starts with SATPIN. And again, these lessons can be done over a week or 2, depending on the child and the way that they learn. Okay, so lesson 1. Here's our phonological awareness warm-up. And every warm-up will be different. So this one is about recognizing or listening to the beginning sounds. And we're going to see which pictures have the same letter sound. So we're going to start. Star, apple, sun. So which 2 words start with the same letter sound? So the child will then say it's star and sun. They both start with the S sound. It's really good to do some auditory skill warm-ups to get the child warmed up for the letter sound lessons. Okay, and it will just follow through like that. And you're just going to go through a few of these warm-ups. Okay, any questions with the warm-ups?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, now the next slide will be let's write some letters. So this is when your child could have a whiteboard in front of them. They could have a piece of paper, wherever they feel comfortable, depending with the stage that they're at. They're going to get ready. So you've got the whiteboard, you've got whatever you need in front of them. And now it says we're going to focus on writing these letters. Now again, there's 6 letters. If you feel this is too much and your child's not ready for that much, you can break it up and just work on the SAT for today. And then you can work on the PIN the next day. Or if you want to work on SAT for the whole week, it just as long as the child gets the correct letter formation, that's the most important thing. So you'd get the letter and then you would start. Okay, we're going to focus on writing the letter S, this sound. So you can do this first in a multi-sensory approach. You could do it up in the air. You could get chalk. You could do it in a sand tray first. You can build it, and then you can focus on the formation. So what we use, and again, it's up to any parent or any teacher on how they would like to use a saying for this handwriting. I know Read Write Ink has lovely handwriting sayings, like they would say for the S, slither down the snake. And it's just different sounds, different sayings. It's up to you. And I'm more than happy to send some handwriting sayings. And again, it's up to the parent, the teacher, and the child what best suits them for how they would like to do the handwriting approach. Do you have any questions on that?
No.
Okay, so again, you just build it. And once they're ready to actually do it from pencil to paper, you get all, they could first do it on a whiteboard and they could do the formation. Remember when you're doing it that you've always got to start at the top and then finger spaces in between each letter that you do. So that builds on their spatial awareness skills also on a piece of paper. You want to teach them correctly firsthand. Okay, so you'll go through that. And if you find that they're struggling with the letter S and A, stop there. Don't carry on. Then that'll be continuous for the next lesson to just improve on that. Okay, now let's read some words. Okay, so now you're going to flash the words with them. Because you have taught them and explicitly flashed to them the letter sounds from here, S, A, these letter sounds, they should be able now to read these words. S, t, sit. Okay, so these are only words that have the sat pin sounds in them, the letter sounds. You've got pan, pat, tin, tap, pin, pip. Remember with a capital, explain why it's a capital. Tip, nap, sat, sip. Now, if the child's ready, you can say, now write the words. You don't have to write all of them. You could choose maybe 3 or 4. And you're going to say, okay, with their paper, it could be on a piece of paper, it could be on a whiteboard. And now you're going to take it away. You don't want them to see the words. You can still hide those other words and you can now give them the word sit. And you can break it up with them. Sit, write it, and then they write it. So you can do a few of those for them. Again, this is when their letter formation will be done correctly. So make sure that they form their letters correctly when they're doing this. Okay, any questions on writing and reading?
Do they need to say the word sit, or do they need to pronounce it sit?
I would, depending again on where they're at for fluent. So first comes making sure that they can decode and blend. If they can decode and blend correctly and they've mastered that skill, then you can rather work on the fluency like you did sit. Then it can go faster and then you can work on the fluency afterwards. So as long as they're able to decode and blend, if they can do that and they've mastered that skill, then I would go on to doing the fluency.
Right.
Okay. Then we've got our heart words. So heart words, a lot of people used to call them sight words, high frequency words. Sight words are for what the child knows in their own vocabulary. So heart words are words that have irregular spelling patterns. So for example, if we look at the word is, it has a Z sound. So the child will write it with a Z. But if you explain to them that it's an S and it's a heart word, you can even put a heart above the S so that they've got to remember that part off by heart, that they'll always know that it's actually an S and not a Z. And then I and A instead of an A or a. So these will build up slowly as we go along. But for now, these are the 3 important ones that you will show them, flash them. They can even write them, you can get them to write them, as long as they understand that they're making different sounds that they're not used to making. They're not their normal sounds. Any questions with heart words?
No.
Okay, so once we've done that, you're going to go on to a dictation. Again, just make sure that the child's ready for this. If they're not forming their letters correctly or they're not writing like sit properly, or they're struggling with their writing, then you're going to stop there and you're going to restart again tomorrow. But if they are ready for this, then you're going to start dictation. So we've got a sentence with a full stop, a statement sentence. What you will do is you'll go through it with the child. So show them the sentence together and read it with them. Pip sat in a tin. So you read it with them. Count how many words are in that sentence. Pip sat in a tin. 5. Look at the capital letter. What does it end in? A full stop. Then, once they've read it, once they've said it and counted the words, then you're going to take it away, and then you're going to say it to them. Pip sat in a tin, and then they're going to write it. When they've written it, you're then going to go back and they're going to do a check with you. Have they left finger spaces? If they've left finger spaces, you can tick the block. Did they leave a full stop? Tick the block if they did. Have they started with a capital letter? Tick the block. So they self-check, so they're aware of their writing and what they're doing. And we've got one with an exclamation mark, just so they understand the different sentence types. And they've got a question mark one and just another statement one. When they've done that and they're okay with that, they've mastered that, they understand to read it, they can write it, you can do a let's read. This is where your buddy reading comes in, and you can read this together. So normally there'll be a title like Pat, and then you read together. Pat sits. Pat sits in a tin. Pat taps. Pat taps a pan. Pat sips. Pat naps. Okay, once you've read it together, then let the child try read it on their own, and you can work on that fluency. If you feel that this lesson didn't go so well, there are a lot of gaps still, again, like I said, this lesson can be used for over a week until they've really mastered this. And then you can go on to lesson 2, which follows the next progression. And it's, as you can see, you've got your short vowels now for revision, just to have there. You've got your phonological warm-up, which is a little bit different. And then you've got your review. You always review the lesson that you did before. So for example, you're going to go over Satpin. And then you're going to introduce your new letters. And that is how the lessons flow like that. And that is basically how you would do each lesson. And they just follow the same, pattern. Okay, do you have any questions about lesson 1?
Just the last 4 slides.
Yes. Is that the dictation one?
Yeah, go into it. Let's see.
So for dictation, we've got this one here.
Yeah, do they need to do all of those in one day?
No, definitely not. You can just do one, and maybe the next day if you're doing a review, you could do another one for reviewing. And you can decide, oh, today I just want to do one with an exclamation mark. Okay. So they definitely, you can choose and pick which one you want.
All right.
Okay, and the progressions just keep going, and just as we go along, there will be bonus lessons. Like for example, when you introduce the CK, then we'll bring in the CK rule. And when we use the CK, and we give a little slide, when a short vowel word ends with a K sound, it is spelled with CK at the end. And then they're going to focus on that, just so that they're aware when they're writing that it's got to be CK at the end. So we just do that. We put in a little bonus lessons, and that is how we progress. And we've also got open and close syllables. So it's a really great lesson slide to use, especially for your intervention groups. You could even use this on a year 3 child who is still struggling with their letter sounds. It doesn't matter. It is not babyish. It's important to go back and just bridge those gaps, especially if your child is forming them incorrectly. You have to go back to the beginning, because a lot of the time children write from the bottom up, and we want to teach them where to start. And that is our structured literacy lesson, lesson 1, and that is how you will teach and use these lesson slides. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions before we go and end our session?
No.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us. And please, if you have any more questions about our slides, about our lessons, please do not hesitate to send us an email. Thank you so much. See you soon.
Bye.
Okay, let's go.